Hello and welcome everyone to today's Association for Manufacturing Excellence Town Hall meeting. I'm Tim Piotrowski, the Marketing Media Manager for AME, and I'll be your moderator today. Today's presenter is George Sayes, President and CEO of AME. Before we start, just a couple housekeeping items. You'll be in listen-only mode throughout the meeting. You will see that you are muted on your attendee panel on the right side of your screen. When you log off today, please check your email inbox. It will be an invitation to fill out a short survey. Please take a few minutes to complete the survey today, as your feedback is very important to us to improve future AME Town Hall meetings. If you have any questions during the meeting, please type them into your question area in the attendee panel and click on Submit. We'll review the questions and we'll add them at the end of today's presentation. And now I'm pleased to introduce George Sayes, who will present the AME Town Hall meeting. Take it away, George.
Well, thank you, Tim, and hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the third and last Town Hall meeting of 2017. As a year's coming to a close, been a fast and quick and exciting year as always. Today's agenda, we're going to go through, first off is the Boston Conference results. We just finished that up in October. It was an excellent conference. I'm going to go through the survey results with you so you can see what the members and the attendees thought of the conference. We'll look at the attendance numbers and then the financial results as well, and how those impact our fiscal year 2018 budget. From that, I want to talk a little bit about a conference evaluation team that we're assembling and share with you their structure and purpose. And likewise, we are putting together a regional evaluation team, and I'm going to share a little bit about that as well. And then we have some updates on our networking solution, Higher Logic, that we shared about that at the conference, that was coming soon. And so we've got some really good news going on there, and I think you've probably seen that in your email recently. And then finally, we'll go through the volunteer changes, any open opportunities and staffing changes, and then we'll open up for your questions. So let's go ahead and get started. We have 47 slides, but we're going to go through them pretty quickly, certainly as we go through the survey results. So I want to share those with you to begin with. Let's take a look at this. So the comparison we're going to be seeing on the screen is comparing Boston back to Dallas. So one thing that you can see immediately is that we had a lot more responses from Dallas. I know we sent out a couple of notes with Boston and soliciting more and more responses. We ended up with 331 responses, and that's still a significant number, but of course, we're always excited when we get more than that as well. So we're going to be comparing to Dallas as we go through these slides. So the first one is the overall satisfaction, and again, you can see that's very close, very high, above 4, and so we want to keep that above 4, 4.0. But very comparable to the Dallas conference as well. And then our top 5 awareness drivers. Where do people hear about the conference? And so number 1, of course, is colleagues. And you see that I'll use my cursor here to show that Dallas was slightly ahead of Boston from hearing from colleagues, and the same with previous attendees, or attendees. And members, hearing through membership and through our website. Again, most of those are down from Dallas. The only one that's neck and neck is email. So those are our top 5 awareness drivers where folks hear about our conference. And next is our marketing channels to improve. And so these are opportunities for folks to hear more about the conference through our different medias. And so you can see the first one is our regional events. And it's down from folks coming as a result of our regional event, hearing through our regional events from the past slightly. So that's an opportunity for us to grow that. We can see that the print media response was much higher. And so we want to continue to build upon that for Boston. And then the results from Target Magazine were down substantially from Dallas. And so there's an opportunity again to grow that one. And then something new was that we didn't have to compare with Dallas was the search engine optimization. And so folks that are just clicking and looking for lean conferences and then coming to our website. So that's a new measurement. It's something that we'll be able to compare next year. And then you see quite a big drop also from our strategic partnerships, folks coming in through that method. So these are the marketing channels that our marketing team will be focusing on for next year in terms of improving and getting the word out about our conference. The next one is our top 5 attendance drivers, and you can see number 1 is through a colleague. So somebody said, you're going to the conference, whether that's their a coworker or it's their boss, but it's somebody that they know within their company that's told them about the conference. And you can see that was pretty much neck and neck. And then the other driver, next one is our keynotes. You can see that the keynotes was slightly ahead of Dallas, a little more attractive, but still pretty much in the same range. And the same with the tours. Tours very attractive. It looks like the value stream presentations, and now we did them a little bit differently, was a little bit bigger driver, a little more attractive in Boston. And then just that they came to previous meetings and came back, and that was, again, stronger in Boston over Dallas. So those are our top 5 attendance drivers. And then looking at the logistics, the pricing wasn't quite as favorable. You know, in the eyes of these attendees, the city was a little more attractive than Dallas was. The length, again, pretty much neck and neck, and then snacks and meals got an okay rating. And actually, we did see that there was a lot of opportunity to improve that. I think we saw more comments that people weren't quite as happy with some of the meals as it has been in the past. So there's an opportunity to improve there. And then next, the conference elements. So the keynotes got a stronger response rate in Boston this year. Our tours got a little bit lower rate, and the workshops were a lower rate in Boston. So we did change some of these up, but this, again, you know, the keynotes have been a big-time driver in the past, and again this year I think they were very, very well received, a very high rating. The value streams compared to interactive. So this is an interesting one. You can see that our sessions versus the value streams in the past, a little bit lower here in Boston in our special interest session, but they're all up about the same area. And these were all new for this year. Our speed chats, the panels that we did, the deep dives, and the idea exchange. I think the interesting thing that was noted was that we changed up the structure of the conference this year, but the ratings are pretty much the same values seen by our attendees, regardless of which structure that we had for the conference. The next one is choices offered, and you know, again, just right for both years, despite significant changes. So that's an interesting. You know, again, people were thrilled. We did hear a lot of comments and saw in the write-in commentary where folks said that they were a bit overwhelmed with all the choices that they had in Boston. So certainly something and a good input for San Diego and Chicago. Networking time. Now this is very interesting because this conference, the theme was Get Engaged, and we provided a lot more networking opportunities. Interesting that the amount that saw that was just right was a little bit smaller, and a bit too much was actually greater in Boston, and a bit too little was greater in Dallas. So as much as we provided all the networking time, it looks like the members weren't necessarily overwhelmed by that or excited about it. They felt that the previous year was maybe just a little bit better. And then looking at our networking elements, and again, this is comparing Boston only. And what this chart shows is the amount of folks that were involved in speed networking, Club Newbie, Dine Around, Amazing Race, and Selfie. And what we're using here is the NA. These are the folks that didn't participate. So they said that it was not applicable. They did not participate in these. So we can see that there's a great number of folks that aren't, you know, almost 86, 87% that are not participating in the Amazing Race. And so quite high numbers in a lot of these networking elements that aren't participating as a percentage of our membership, or our attendees actually. And then our attendee value. Will attendees apply the lessons learned? The interesting point here is that in Boston, the definitely number was much, much stronger, but the likely reduced. If you add the two together, they're both right around that 90 to 92% range of folks that will either definitely or likely to apply the lessons learned, but it's certainly a stronger feeling about the Boston content. And then this is something that's interesting to us, is whether or not we continue the Learning Journal or convert over to an app. And so this first shows that a lot more folks in Boston used the app than in Dallas. How many people used both of the app and the Learning Journal was a little bit stronger here in Boston. And then, of course, the journal tailed off in Boston. So, and interesting, neither, there was actually some that used neither, but that number shrunk, which is really good. We want our attendees to be informed. But as we look at, should we eliminate the Learning Journal and go completely to the app, this would say that it's not that time yet. We'll continue putting more and more work into the app and making it more and more attractive. We'd certainly like to get away from the cost of printing the Learning Journal, but there's quite a few folks that are still using that quite a bit. So, so we'll keep with that for a bit more. And then past conferences attended, you can see our first-timer rate was a little bit higher. It seemed very high in the conference when you walked around and you saw folks with red badges, badge holders, and it was up slightly, so a little bit stronger. The 1 to 3 was down, 4 to 7 conference was about the same, and a little bit stronger with the 8 plus. So, so again, a little bit stronger in newbies and stronger at the longer or a larger number of conferences attended. And then experience and knowledge of the companion program. This is an interesting one. A lot of folks, of course, don't bring their companion, but this number here was really interesting. Almost 40% of the folks were not aware that we had a companion program, and so, you know, that could be a great opportunity for us to increase the awareness of this program. The cost was talked about here. Companion was not interested, or my companion participated. Again, it's looking like less than 10% of the folks responded that their companion participated in this, but certainly a great opportunity for awareness and see what happens with this. And then interest in San Diego. I've already registered. I plan to register. I will not attend, but we'll consider it. I will not attend, period. I'm undecided, and others. So again, we've got a pretty good turnout of folks that are interested or plan to. We've got some undecided, but at least the I will not attend is a pretty small percentage of the people that responded. And then time spent in the Learning Resource Center. This is the exhibit hall, and this is really very good news, certainly for our exhibitors, that we had such a strong, at least over 70% of our folks spent 15 minutes or more in the Learning Resource Center. And if you combine in again with those that spent a little less than 15%, a big number, a percentage of our participants did go to the exhibit center, and this is good information for us when attracting exhibitors and sponsors. So the conclusions, we do want to evaluate the cost of the program changes that occurred this year against the benefit, and we'll continue doing that. My understanding is that Bob Burke and the team with San Diego are going to use the same format again, so we'll have another year of data to compare. Certainly we'll consider scaling back the Learning Journal, but we'll continue improving on the app and see if we can make that conversion over the next several years. We want to consider the time and expense of the networking options and weigh this against the benefit to attendees. Again, we spent a lot of resources and some additional costs in adding the networking options. We certainly didn't see this year a lot of response to that. We want to increase our marketing efforts and continue to improve our search engine optimization and increase the marketing push at regional events and with our strategic partners. And we want to continue, consider additional investment in print media. And then we'll evaluate the needs for the Companions program, and if needed, implement an awareness campaign. And then lastly, take a look at the conference pricing structure. So those are some of the things that came out of our survey. It's a great opportunity. We appreciate those that gave us that feedback. And we'll certainly try and promote that in the future. It really helps us to make the changes necessary to keep the conference growing and relevant. So the next thing I'd like to share with you is the attendance. So this is the attendance over the last 4 years, and you can see that we had a significant drop in Boston. And so our paid registration in Jacksonville, Dallas, and Cincinnati was in that 1,250 to 1,300 range, and in Boston we had 1,074. Before I address the comps, this number is concerning, and is something that we're really taking a hard look at for San Diego and how we promote that. I will tell you that we did run into an interesting phenomenon that we track the registration rates on a weekly basis, and we compare them to the past years, to these 3 past years. And throughout the year, the Boston registration was tracking really, really strong. It was ahead of Jacksonville, it was well ahead of Cincinnati, and it was neck and neck with Dallas. And so we felt that we were right on track to achieve our goal. And our goal this year was 1,350 paid attendees. And about 3 to 4 weeks before the conference hit, we began having cancellations of large groups. And those are folks that were already registered that were canceling back out. One cited a buyout, but the rest cited financial and budget constraints at the end of the year. And so that was interesting, something that we'll explore further, but it was going strong. So it wasn't that we had slow or low interest building up to the conference, but we had very strong interest, and it tracked right along, and it looked like we were going to be hitting that 1,300 number, and then we had quite a few cancellations. Now you can see the percentage on the block above shows the percentage of comps to the paid. So the percentage is certainly stronger with a smaller base. For Dallas and Boston, we had about right around 400 comps, complimentary people coming into the conference. In Dallas or Jacksonville, that was a smaller number, much smaller number, 21% of the biggest base. And so we had 265 folks that were comps. And so a comp is made up of those that come in that are either volunteers or guests or presenters. So there's various reasons for that, but that number is something that we're going to do a Pareto analysis and really understand where they're coming from and all the costs associated with that as we go forward. So, so we are concerned. How that translates into a financial impact, as I shared, we had expected and budgeted 1,350, and we came in at 1,074. So that reflects a potential shortfall just from attendance in net income of about $345,000, which is pretty impactful. We began the budget for fiscal year 2018, which began October 1. Our budget was plus $4,000 for the year, so you can see the net effect of that could be down around a negative $340,000. Now, we're still putting together the final numbers of the conference, and we do know that in some areas we were able to save some cost. Our sponsorships and exhibits, thanks to the team, Darlene and Glenn, were able to overachieve by about $90,000 to $100,000. So we'll see what that final number ends up at. But as it says here in this fourth bullet, this is a positive statement for our change to the fiscal year concept. In the past, we would have spent our budget for the most part all year long and then come up to the conference and said, oh my gosh, we're underwater. And so this gives us a chance. We're starting now with the conference, and all the expenditure and all the revenue comes into that first month of our fiscal year. So we can see that plainly now, and we have time to adjust and begin brainstorming and looking for opportunities to minimize that impact to us. And so as a fifth bullet says, we have pulled the management team together. We actually went through this with the board as well, and we're looking for opportunities for quick hits to revenue and opportunities to decrease expenses for fiscal year 2018. So we really want to minimize that impact to the association. I do want to share with you that we're in a very strong position with very strong reserves, and we've built that up over the last several years, and so there's no cause for any concern, but it's certainly something that we don't want to do. We want to minimize that impact, and we want to keep those reserves there for investment in the future, and also for any other big time events such as a recession again. So we're in a good position, but we're going to evaluate opportunities and do everything we can to minimize the impact for fiscal year 2018. And we pass this information on to both the San Diego and Chicago conference teams, and they're evaluating their input terms of what opportunities we have to take a look at how do we increase attendance and how do we better manage our costs. So we want to continue to keep the value up for our members and our attendees, but be mindful that there's opportunities both sides to increase revenue and to more effectively manage cost. So the next thing that's a natural outfall of this is setting up a conference evaluation team. So the trends in attendance and income, you saw the attendance, and it's pretty much the same with the income, are both on a downward trend. Our quality is consistent, and our response from our first-time attendees is overwhelmingly positive. Everybody that comes to our conference for the first time says, "Where has this been? I wasn't aware of this." So we had a brainstorming session at the recent management team meeting here in Chicago, and we identified some short-term opportunities for San Diego and Chicago. And the plan there was that those guys, certainly San Diego is well in motion, and even if we put a team together, by the time a team would come up with ideas for the future, San Diego will be pretty much planned and Chicago will be well along the way. So we wanted to give them a head start. So we came up with a lot of ideas to increase revenue and to better manage our costs. But our long-term plan is to launch a team that'll do a deep dive, and we'll do that in 2018. And we're just putting that together. The facilitator spot is still to be determined. The framework of this is that we'll essentially evaluate the conference structure from top to bottom, from all aspects. And our goal is to continue to improve the quality of the conference while growing attendance and increasing net income. So we're going to take a look at this from top to bottom. Certainly, as we've communicated this to Bob Burke, who's chairman of the San Diego conference, and Greg McDougall, who's chairman of the Chicago conference, they are taking a look at all these ideas and brainstorming and really evaluating everything. Everything is on the table, and again, the goal is to continue to maintain and improve the quality, but how can we grow attendance and how can we increase net income? So that team will be started next year, and we'll provide more feedback in the town hall meetings on that as that progresses. The second area that we're looking at is our regions. And the same thing, we want to put together a regional evaluation team to take a hard look at what the region's purpose is. There's been some mixed results in our regions. Some regions are doing very, very well, and some are struggling, and some are in the middle. But there's also been a little bit of confusion with what does consortia mean to the regions, and how does that play out as we integrate consortia. And so we felt that it was a good time to really take a look at what's the long-term goal and what's that long-term purpose for our regions. Our regions represent the boots on the street. We've got probably, I think, about 135 regional board members. So the one thing that we want to do is how do we maximize this great resource that we have and make it a competitive weapon? How do we use that for the true benefit of our members and to grow membership and to grow the value proposition of AME? We also want to design it, being on the regional boards, to be a more meaningful experience. And then we want to determine how we can improve the engagement and participation of our members. So that's the framework. This team is going to be facilitated by Dale Gehring, and many of you know Dale. Dale, former chairman of the board with AME, and a longtime member and champion. And so Dale is putting a team together. It'll be a cross-section of regional presidents and volunteers and some customers and staff and some outsiders to get a whole perspective on what this could look like for the future. So we're going to be launching this effort in January of 2018, and the goal is for them to be presenting their recommendation at the August Board of Directors meeting. So this is a big task. We're going to need a lot of input and a lot of collaboration from a lot of volunteers and to really get this right. But I think there's a great opportunity for us to take a look at what this purpose is and how do we really maximize that experience for our membership. So again, more to follow on that in our next town hall meeting. And I'd like to also update you on the networking solution. So Higher Logic launch overview. First off is the API integration is complete. So the API is how it speaks to, how Higher Logic software speaks to our system. And in this case, it's Cvent. And our CVent system is not a true association management system database. And so Higher Logic was set up to communicate to all the database systems, and it would have been a very easy flip for us. But in our case, there was not a bridge built for CVent, and so this was a custom designed integration, and that took quite some time. So that was where we got a little bit delayed in our launch. But our beta testing is now complete. The branding and the house ads are complete, and you've seen the information out there. Our communities are being established, and instructions in a phased approach. And so the emails went out to all of our membership, advising them of how to log on. Phase one in terms of the communities would be the staff, our regional presidents, the management team, and the board of directors and general membership. So those communities have been established, as well as the Champions Club is up and running as well. Regional directors and the regional communities are targeted for November 27th. I think we might be ahead of target on that one. And all the consortia communities will be up by early December. And then phase 4 in January will be the Lean Sensei community. So it's pretty exciting to get this networking platform up so that everyone will be able to talk to each other and have virtual communication. So again, we're taking our practitioner peer-to-peer sharing now to a virtual basis. So this is some of the metrics that we're able to capture on this system, and we'll be tracking these. So these are engagement factors and looking at how many people are members, with the pages that are viewed, the kinds of messages that are sent, are people updating their profiles, how many communities do we have? So there's all this information that we'll have and be able to track in terms of the networking solution. And this is a chart that shows engagement by user overall, so we can see who's active within our networking communities. Right now, these are all the folks that, between our staff and some volunteers that volunteered to get involved in this so we could begin testing out the system. So you can see the engagement level there. And this is a pie chart of the same thing that you saw on the first one, and showing how we're tracking the engagement points and the spike up as we start to bring more folks online. So this is what the web page looks like. As we said, it's at network.ame.org, and you can see the circle here looking that if you did the drop down on communities, you'd get all communities and my communities. And this is what that might look like. The AME Open Forum is the entire network of all AME members. And you can see the kinds of things that will be listed on discussions and libraries, and you can see the members here at 3.9 thousand members. Some other things that were pulled up here were the Salt Lake City Consortium, the San Diego Consortium, and the AME staff. And so you can see the kinds of activities there. And then digging in a little bit deeper, this is going back to AME Open Forum. So if you clicked on that, this is the page that you draw, but you'd see the things that you could be seeing at the home page, the latest discussion posts, announcements, latest shared files, and community blogs like this article by Ron Harper, The Pressure on Lean as a Business Strategy. So if you clicked on that, then this would bring you up to that article, and you'd be able to comment on that article. So we think this is going to be a fantastic tool. This is what it looks like with the Midwest region, and so the latest discussion posts, their announcements, and their shared files if you're a regional member. And if you're looking for somebody, this is the way to find the members within that region. So there's 304 members there in the Midwest region. And then if you're looking just in the directory, how you'd go about searching somebody, you can look through a number of different ways. And of course, we have the community rules and etiquette and privacy guidelines are on here for all to see. So please take a look at those. We encourage you to make sure that you work your way through there, and that we do respect others and do respect the purpose of the community. So there's some library entries here, some opportunities to pull up information, and finally the next steps. And so we're working on the navigation structure between this and our website. We're going to do certainly quality assurance and troubleshooting and listening to you as you get online and see what all you're experiencing. Make sure that we address those bugs that could be in the system. There's in-depth training for our staff and our regional directors so they can help instruct others, and we'll determine how we're going to support that internally. That's certainly going to be once we get more and more communities up, it will require more and more staff support. And then we're establishing ribbons and gamification rules so that folks will be opportunities to win prizes and to achieve recognition based on your participation levels. And then we'll determine what metrics that are important to track and communicate those to the stakeholders. And then certainly our awareness and adoption campaigns. So you'll see more and more information, but we're really excited to present this. Again, it's a free benefit for all members, but you do have to be a member. So if your membership does lapse, then you will be locked out of this networking solution. So we think that's also going to be a very good retention tool for the future as more and more folks get involved in this. So lastly, I'd like to cover any volunteer changes and opportunities and staffing changes, and then we'll move on to questions. So first thing is that at our board of directors meeting this last weekend, Wayne Pitchford was named and approved as secretary, and so he'll be joining the executive committee as part of the board of directors, which means Wayne will be on a 5-year journey. Year 1, he'll be the secretary of AME. In year 2, he'll be the treasurer. In year 3, he'll be the vice chairman. Year 4, the chairman, and then year 5, the past chairman. So this is a big commitment, and we certainly are excited that Wayne accepted this nomination. Wayne has been an at-large director for the last year, and so we're really excited to have him on board the executive committee. So please join me in welcoming and thanking Wayne for this gift of time. And then on our management team, we did fill one of our open positions. Our VP of programming slot was filled by Larry Anderson. I think Larry brings is a fantastic person to fit into this role, and more to follow from Larry in terms of what he is going to accomplish. But we think there's a real opportunity to integrate our content and align it throughout our programming. And so there's opportunities if we just look at how we do webinars, to workshops, to summits, to conference, and aligning that programming up, and looking at what folks need from an entry-level basis, from a intermediate level practitioner to an advanced level practitioner. So there's a lot of different ways to look at our programming and our content. And Larry's got a wealth of experience. Larry has been a regional president, one of the voting presidents on the board, and was chairman of the Regional Presidents Council. He's also Lean Gold certified and works on the Lean certification and awards team. And so he's done a lot of volunteering for AME, and I think he's certainly well positioned to conduct this role. So we're really excited about Larry joining the management team in this capacity. And we do have 3 openings still. So we do have the Vice President of People-Centric Leadership is open, but we are interviewing candidates for that. And we also have the Editor-in-Chief for Target Publications open, and in the same way, we're in the process of that as well. And then lastly, we have a new position coming open, which will be our Vice President of Corporate Accounts. And I'm in the process of drafting that job description, and then Ellen will be publishing that shortly. So look for that to come out via the volunteer networking airways. So that's our changes. At this point, I think we're about a little over 30 minutes into our meeting, and so I'd like to open up to any questions that you have. So Tim, I'm going to give it back to you and see what. Let me know what folks would like to hear more about.
Great, thanks, George. And now we will review any questions. I know we got a couple that have come in. If you do have any questions, please submit them on the right side of your screen. And the first question we had coming in is, what will you do different to drive attendance for San Diego?
No, that's a great question, and that's something that we have tasked the conference team with looking at. How do we do that? I'll tell you that the first thing that comes to my mind is that when folks come to our conference, they absolutely love it. I've never heard anybody come and say, "Oh, I was disappointed in that." They're a little shocked at the price, but once they come, they all walk out and say, "That was the best event that I've ever attended. And so I think that the challenge is how do we get them? How do we get them here? I don't think it's necessarily a function of our content, although we want to make sure that we do stay relevant and we um, do the content that will attract that next generation. But I think the biggest factor is to get outside of ourselves in terms of our marketing efforts and our selling efforts. And how do we get outside of selling to our existing database and the existing members, our existing members or folks that have attended our events, and that's been where we have focused most of our efforts. And so we tend to want to bring those folks back, and that's a great opportunity for us. But I think we still are one of the best kept secrets, and so I think our real challenge is to get outside, and certainly I know you guys are probably, as well as I am, bombarded with a lot of these conferences out there. So it's going to take a special marketing because it's a saturated market and a lot of people seeing a lot of conferences being advertised, but we are differentiated. And I think the differentiating factor is our practitioner model. And there's a lot of them that I haven't even seen anybody that is anywhere close to what our conference brings in that value. So I think if we focus on that as a differentiating factor and get outside of our existing database, I think there's opportunity to help a whole new group of folks become aware of what AME is and what the value proposition is.
All right, great. We have another conference-related question. Are you looking at doing a deeper early bird discount and extending the discount period?
Well, we've had discussions with Bob in terms of that. So he and his team are really looking at all aspects of that, whether we want to go deeper and try and get more attendees, or you could increase the average sale price by actually reducing the discount period or reducing the discounts. But I think Bob is leaning the other way, and I know that one of the things he was looking at was extending out the discount period through June. So that hasn't been decided, but I'll say that they're looking at all options, and we'll try to rationalize what makes the most sense and which way will be the biggest benefit for conference overall attendance.
All right, great. What is the plan for a new membership drive with supporting marketing materials? That's the best way to get new attendees to San Diego.
Right. Well, just recently in the last town hall meeting, I shared that we hired a new membership manager, Judy Zarnick, and she comes with a wealth of experience, has been in that role with other associations and has success at doing membership drives. And so she and Darlene King, our administrative director, are beginning to develop those plans, part of our line of sight. In our strategy deployment process, we do have a specific goal around that, and I shared that that was one of the areas that we were asked to focus on. That is growing membership, and I believe the person who wrote the question is absolutely right. If we can grow that membership, we're certainly going to grow the conference as well. And so they are developing those plans and understanding. The first step was we wanted to really understand what people were looking for in AME and to codify our value proposition, to compare to the competitors out there and really understand that, and then develop our marketing material and our membership campaigns from that information. So we're at the early part of that, and now that we're through the conference, we'll begin focusing on that quite heavily. So look for more to come from that in the future.
All right, great. One other question. What is the status of consortia? Which ones are active? Which ones are in the pipeline? And how do I find out more details about consortia?
Well, thanks. So I like that question. We have had a lot of strong interest in consortia, and it certainly came out of a lot of good interest from the conference as well. So currently active. We began the last town hall meeting. We had Cleveland Consortium in San Diego going, and since then the original consortia that we've ever had was the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky with Sam Matsumoto, and that Sam has moved over and joined us as well here at AME. So those are the three active ones right now that have active membership. We have contracts now signed with facilitators in Salt Lake City, in Chicago, in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so we are beginning to do interest sessions, and we're looking at out mining through the manufacturing industry data to help people to know that these opportunities exist. Here in Chicago, we had a couple of those sessions, and we had some interest, but we've also got a lot of strong interest came out of the conference. So we're excited to have those three launched and beginning to work outside and looking at attracting membership. And so those three are up and going with the three that we have, or at least they're open for business, and we'll be going after members there. Outside of that, we are looking to start another consortia in Indianapolis. We had one going there, and that one has ceased to be working, but we do have some interest from former members and from a new client there as well. So look for Ryan Meekum, our director of consortia, to look for a facilitator in Indianapolis area and get one going there. We'll also have some interest in the Seattle area and in Houston. I know that Ryan is fielding questions there and looking for folks that would be interested in either being a facilitator and or being a member of those. We also have some strong interest from some groups across the country that I won't share who they are, but at this point that they've got a very strong interest, and they've got about 30 sites across the country and interested in getting involved in consortia. So we had a really positive feedback and interest level from the conference, and we're getting some real strong momentum there. So I think there's a good chance by early to mid next year that we could be well going in somewhere around 8 to 10 consortias.
Okay. Are you looking at doing a U.S. spring conference?
Well, I'm curious about the question. We do have the Atlanta Lean Summit is coming up in the spring in 2018, and then we're looking at spring conferences for 2019 as well. I know that the Southeast region is interested in doing this on a yearly basis, and we have interest from the Southwest region in doing some type of a spring conference jointly with our awards team. So those are what we're looking at. And I'm not sure if the question, one question that did come up as we looked at the international conference is, would it ever make sense to switch that to the spring? So I don't know if the question was asking which one it was asking. So yes, we do have some mini conferences coming up, and the question did come up of whether we should move our existing conference to the spring. I understand that originally that we came up with the October timeframe because there were other conferences in the spring, and when we were new and young, we didn't want to compete with those. Now we're the big kid on the block, so we may have more opportunity to consider that. Certainly, it's a benefit from a budget standpoint. Most companies are on a calendar year, and when they get into budget constraint, it's going to be in that fourth quarter, and that's a real opportunity to have what happened to us this year. And so in the spring, you tend to not have that. Folks get it into their budget, and they get to spend it early in the year. So from that aspect, that is something that we'll look at, and I'm sure this conference evaluation team will consider that as well.
Great. And when will there be a conference held in Texas again?
Well, let's see. So we have 2021, I believe, is Atlanta. I would say that based on our normal rotation, it's right about time to be going back to Texas. So that's about the time we'd go back to Dallas, or certainly I know that the Southwest region, Doug Carlberg in particular, would love to have it in San Antonio. So there's a possibility for that as well. So I would say probably in 2022 that there's a chance we'll be back in Texas.
All right, great. And that's all. We definitely appreciate, George, for all your answers to those questions and providing the update. That brings our meeting today to a close. And thank you to everybody for your time, and have a productive day.
Thanks, everybody.